right, we got a powerful interview for you guys now. Tariq Haylat is the Director of Global Patient Affairs at the Palestine Children's Relief Fund, where they try to rescue injured children and evacuate them from Gaza to get them treatment. It's amazing. Tariq, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
No problem. So just so people know, we have a whole free Palestine collection on shoptyt.com, and 100% of the proceeds, the profits, go to the Palestine Children's Relief Fund because we think it's a worthy cause. Tariq, I want to ask about a number of things here related to this. First of all, how did this idea to rescue these children out of Gaza come about?
Yeah. First of all, before I even begin, I just want to, I was watching a little bit before and seeing some of the people in the chat thanking you guys for all the work that you're doing, and I want to echo that ourselves, because you guys have been doing an amazing job covering the stories of the Palestinians and the Palestinian children, and we appreciate that endlessly, because as we all know, it's very hard to get this coverage. So that is number one, is thank you so much. And then to answer your question, PCRF, we've been doing this for now 30 plus years. I mean, this organization is older than I am, to be honest. And I've kind of gotten this baton from the people who started it, and I and our team have been trying as much as possible to expand it to now do a global effort instead of just evacuating the children here to the United States. And then beyond that is to expand to make sure that we can treat the children, but at the same time to also bring aid inside Gaza, as well as medical missions and so many other programs. So we've had to scale up the operations immensely these last 2 years.
Yeah, well, unfortunately it's needed, that's why, of course. And so you guys work with some hospital systems, corporate entities, the World Health Organization, European Union's Emergency Task Force. So it's amazing all the resources you have to put behind trying to rescue children who desperately need medical attention, just because Israel just won't let them out. And so that I want to dive into that a little bit more. And Israel created that situation in the first place. So how do you identify kids that need the help, and how hard is it to get them out?
Yeah, great question. It's honestly so difficult. We've, one of the things is that we are the largest Palestinian-led nonprofit organization. We're the largest organization to evacuate children, and yet we've only evacuated 300 and so children these last 2 years. And so you're talking about a drop in the bucket, a drop in the ocean, really. So that alone should kind of indicate to people just how difficult it is to be able to get the acceptances from the Israelis to be able to evacuate these children. And I usually like to use this metaphor because I think it's such a ridiculous thing that a lot of times we have to get the approvals from the Israelis to be able to evacuate these children to receive medical treatment, even though they're the ones who have caused the suffering on these particular children. And so it's the same as, if we want to evacuate Ukrainian children and we would have to go and ask the Russians to be able to evacuate these Ukrainian children to receive medical treatment, which in any situation that is just a ridiculous statement. But for some reason, in this case, with the children of Gaza, it's something that we're forced and have to do.
So it's curious, right? Because overall, Israel wants the Palestinians to leave so they can take Gaza. Their cabinet members have said that repeatedly. And they claim, well, Hamas made us do it. We didn't want to maim and injure and kill these children, but Hamas twisted our arm and made us do this. Well, if Hamas made you do it and they're terribly injured, you would think that you would be motivated to get them to help, right? So why are they keeping them in Gaza and making them suffer more and making it difficult to get it out? It doesn't seem to compute.
Yeah, and I can't really speak on their thought process or what it is that, what is their motivation behind things. I can only speak on the fact that as a nonprofit organization, our main goal is to help and evacuate these children in whatever capacity that we can, and whatever it is that we have to do to be able to get these acceptances, to be able to pull these children out. I will say that originally it used to be much more difficult to evacuate these children, and recently even though certain borders are crossed, the acceptance from the Israeli side is actually becoming easier. And so our job then becomes, how do we make sure that we're evacuating these children to receive the medical treatment without displacing our people? Because yes, we want to evacuate children to receive medical treatment, but we also don't want to displace these Palestinians and not be able to return in the future, because then we are, feeding into displacing our own people. And so, we have to navigate this very thin line all the time, and it's a very difficult task to do. And so that's why if we had our choice, our choice would be to build within Gaza. We've already built 2 field hospitals inside of Gaza. We have the only oncology department inside of Gaza that was just actually bombed twice, while there were 80 children inside of that department, and try to get the Gaza healthcare industry and system itself built from the ground up, so that these children don't need to come all the way to the United States or to Europe or to all these other countries. Because here's one thing about Gaza people and the children: they all want to go back to Gaza. They don't come here and they say, "Oh, I just want to stay." No, they actually want to go back. And if these borders were open and it was possible for them to live inside of Gaza, they would all go back after that treatment. And so that's the really difficult thing, is how do we balance making sure that we do take children out to receive medical treatment while making sure that we don't just keep them and displace them and support the displacement of our people.
Yeah. So look, I'm going to show a couple before and after pictures here, but I want the audience to buckle up. But I also want you to see it. I don't want you to run away, right? Because the American people are being forced to finance this. So I want to show you Fadi Al-Zant, the before and the after. I mean, the after is, he looks like any kid in the world, the American kid, European kid, Middle Eastern kid. That's what you want a kid to look like. The before looks like it's out of the Holocaust. And it's just heartbreaking. And then Rahaf Ayad, also skin and bones, and now looking better. So tell us about those 2 cases and others, and in terms of how did we, again, how did you get them out? What were they suffering from other than obvious starvation, and how you guys were able to help them?
Yeah, as many times as I look at those pictures, it's always so difficult. Fadi Al-Zant was the poster child of malnutrition at one point, and we finally were able to evacuate him. In the beginning, in the middle of Gaza, there was a line where there was the Israeli tanks, and children weren't able to be evacuated from the north of Gaza to the south of Gaza because of that line. And we worked endlessly for 3 months to be able to create a pathway for these children to come down south so that we can evacuate them. And finally, when we did, it allowed for the evacuation of so many other children. But Fadi Al-Zant in particular, when he was finally evacuated, all he needed at that point was nutrition. A lot of times, they say these things, and I think it's absolutely ridiculous. They say, "Oh yeah, it's malnutrition, but they had a pre-existing condition." That doesn't matter. Regardless if they have a pre-existing condition or they don't have a pre-existing condition, these children need the adequate malnutrition and support, the nutrition and the support to be able to be healthy. And Fadi Al-Zant is exactly that case. He had cystic fibrosis, which is a pre-existing condition. And even though he had a pre-existing condition, when we evacuated him, he was able to receive the nutrition that he needed. And now look at him, he looks completely normal. Rahaf is the exact same thing, just about 8 months later. So this is months and months and now years of starving children. It's gotten to the point where 13.5% of children screened have acute malnutrition in just August of 2025. There's 20,000 children killed in Gaza since October. That is literally 1 child every single hour.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't fathom that.
I mean, it gives you a sense how vicious the Israeli government has been, where they say, well, we're only starving to death the kids with pre-existing conditions. Since they were slightly sick to begin with, we decided why not, starve them to death. and you see how that proves we're the good guys. No, I don't see that at all, and neither does the rest of the planet. So thank God there's organizations like yours that are trying to help these kids. By the way, is there a website that people can go to help?
Yeah, it's www.pcrf.net. And you can go on there and you can support in whatever capacity that you can. It doesn't necessarily need to be just donations. It could be that you could volunteer. These children, when they come to the United States, they need a social support network. And so a lot of times, what I think is so powerful is that we as a nonprofit organization cannot go too much into politics, right? So we have to advocate in our own capacity. One of the big projects that the chairwoman of this organization implemented was to globalize our medical evacuation program, AKA that if we want to evacuate children to the United States, okay, then we want to evacuate children to other countries, but by us being able to evacuate children to those countries and allowing them to open up their borders through our own way of advocacy, it allows those particular countries to support those children even more. For example, the UK, for 17 months, we were advocating with an organization called Project Pure Hope in order to open up their borders to allow them to treat children, for us to evacuate children there. For 17 months, they said no. And then finally, they allowed us to evacuate 2 children. Once those 2 children were then evacuated, they've now decided to evacuate 30 more children on their own behalf. So we paid for the first 2 children. Now the UK wants to do the 30 individuals by themselves. The same goes for Australia. We just evacuated the first child there. The same thing goes for Canada. We evacuated the first 2 children there. Same thing in South Africa. What we try to do is we're trying to advocate in our own capacity by evacuating these children to these particular countries so that they can open up and do more. And so when these children go there, they need a community, they need a social support system, and that's where volunteers can volunteer. They can sign up and they can help out in whatever capacity they can. I mean, I work for the organization, but I'm technically a host dad as well. I have a child here. His name is Aham, who's receiving medical treatment in the hospital that I actually work at, and he's actually he's here and he wants to say hi. So I'm gonna have him come say hi real quick.
No, it's amazing. Okay.
This is Aham.
Hi.
Hey, Aham, how you doing, brother?
Good. How are you?
Good. It's good to see you healthy. Okay.
You too.
All right.
And look at this, and just the wild thing about this is that Aham also didn't speak any English when he first came here. So, by these volunteers that came in and they helped him with English, they tutored him, they worked with him and drove him back and forth from the medical appointments. He's, all healed up. Aham was part of an airstrike that occurred to the house adjacent to his. 80 people in that apartment, in that house, were all killed. A whole lineage of family was erased off the map. And the shards from that building went into the shards of his family's house, and his knee got injured. And then we were able to evacuate him. He came here and they removed a glass shard this big out of his knee. No child should go through that.
Yeah, no, look, honestly, Aham, I don't mean to insult you, but you look a little bit like me when I was growing up. And so, I hope that people can look at these images and see him, right? He's a Palestinian kid. He's a real person, a real child, needed emergency help. These good folks helped him. Now he's staying there. I picture your own kids, right? This is what's happening in Gaza. And so, Aham, what do you think of America so far?
What do you think of America? شو رأيك بأمريكا؟ احكي شوية.
كويس. احكي بالعربي الترجم.
No, عادي بالإنجليزي. He's gonna try with it in English.
Okay. America, it's good. It's try to help anyone. It's like try to help anyone. It's need help.
كيف في المدرسة؟
احكي بالعربي الترجم.
Yeah, that's fine. I can translate.
ترجمة ايش؟
احكي عادي.
المدرسة طبعا بتساعدني في كل إشي، بتساعد جميع الناس. طبعا أساتذة أمريكان بيسألوا دائما عن فلسطين، عن كل الناس، بيحبوا يعرفوا. بيسألوني كتير، بدهم يساعدوني في أي حاجة عشان العلاج اللي عندي، عشان سمعوا كتير عن فلسطين واللي بيصير في غزة.
I actually love this answer. He stated that the American people actually ask him. He goes to school now, and his professor, his teachers, and the students in his class, they ask him about what happened to him. They ask him about Palestine, and they try to support him in whatever capacity that they can. And I actually love that, because one of the things is that the American people are on the Palestinian side. I mean, and it's shifting, and for the first time, as a Palestinian, for the first time, I'm comfortable speaking in public about it. When I was Ayham's age, no one was on our side, and now thankfully it's shifting, and people are seeing what's happening, and they're seeing cases like Ayham in front of them. And that's why it's so powerful when you see a child from Gaza come here. Just like you said, that this is just like your child, they also realize that this is just like their child. And so here in South Carolina, I've had conservatives, I've had liberals, I've had, the right and the left both come to try and support Ayham. And it's opened up so many people's perspective of what a child from Gaza looks like. Because when you have 50,000 children that are either killed or injured in Gaza so far, and these are very conservative numbers, and we both know that, that means that they're just not being seen as humans. But when Ayham gets to interact with people and people get to see a child from Gaza, they get to see that this is a real child, a real human, and they deserve love, support, and they definitely don't deserve to be killed or injured.
Yeah, so look, that gives me a little bit of hope in the world, right? So the fact that Americans have opened up their hearts to kids like Ayham and to your organization, and that we're trying to do the best we can despite our government supporting this genocide, and which is heartbreaking. But there's a great awakening in this country, and you're right. The religion doesn't matter, and at this point, left wing, right wing doesn't matter. People are saying, no way we should be financing the deaths and injuries to the kids like that. We should be in the business of rescuing them, not hurting them. And so I think the American people have big hearts. They just were misled, and now they're bringing a wake up to what's actually happening, and they're doing these beautiful things, including your organization. So look, you are not political. I am, so I get to say these things. But I think everyone can agree that it has nothing to do with politics when you're talking about rescuing kids, nursing them back to health, saving their lives. So I'll say it on your behalf, if you can, help the Palestine Children's Relief Fund. And by the way, the Free Palestine collection we have on shop.tyt.com, it has things like America Loves Palestine, right? And the reason we say that is because we want the Palestinians and we want the rest of the world to know that the American people are not anywhere as vicious as our politicians. Our politicians don't represent us, okay? Actual American people love kids like him and an organization like yours and try to help out. So, and we'll have the links to the website down below, and check that out when you guys get a chance. And Tariq, thank you for doing this great work. Thank you for rescuing those kids. And I can't thank you enough. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much for having us and for speaking truth to power. And I want to thank the team that's on the ground, because they are really the true heroes. Every single day, they're fighting to make sure they distribute aid. They have been distributing aid every single day for the last 2 years, nonstop. Even though they're evacuating themselves and their own families, they're really the true heroes here. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone on the ground in Gaza trying to help save the lives of others are the biggest heroes I've ever met in my life. So, as this has shown us the ugly side of humanity, it's also shown us the beautiful side of humanity and the light of humanity. So I hope we can take that away from this tragedy. Tariq, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
We appreciate you.